Hello and welcome back. So in this video, we're going to review this video that is quite trending right now, Cocomelon, the most evil channel on YouTube. Now, it's important because this has all the hallmarks of the things that the Bible warns us about in 1 Timothy and 2 Timothy about the last days. So without wasting any much time, you're probably familiar with Cocomelon already. Let's get right in.
My son is almost 2 and I've been letting him watch Cocomelon, but now I had to get him speech therapy so I can get him to talk. There are hundreds and hundreds of anecdotes in which parents mention the exact same problem. The Cocomelon show is so insanely addictive, it's being compared to nicotine and causing developmental issues amongst the kids who can't stop watching. Children's TV expert Jerica Sands calls it the most damaging show a child can watch, explaining the sneaky ways in which they make the show addictive. Firstly, there's the colors. Take for example the wheels on the bus. The three main colors, blue, green and yellow, are all at maximum saturation, meaning they cannot be made any brighter no matter how hard you try. Extreme saturation is normally used for alerts and notifications as it's exciting, dynamic and attracts attention, which is why it's also used in slot machines. Cocomelon puts these colors in perfect contrast, making them appear even more vibrant, which is different to, for example, Bluey, in which the colors instead blend together. Cocomelon's also different because it's highly repetitive. There's a reason they have 38 videos with over 1 billion views. A child's brain is wired to learn through repetition, so it feels right to them to watch the same thing over and over again. Cocomelon abuses this in almost every video. For example, in the Yes Yes Playground song, they pick a word to repeat 3 times in every sentence, pairing it with a subtly repeating background lullaby, keeping children hooked. Literally no show or movie puts my son into a deep trance the way Cocomelon does. The second it's on the TV, he turns into a toddler zombie who doesn't see or hear anything else that's going on in the room. This is only exacerbated by Cocomelon's subtitles, which have also been a heavy point of criticism. The letters are not educational, I can barely read them fast enough. It's simply another interesting element to capture your little one's attention. Cocomelon explains in every description, our goal is to help make learning a fun and enjoyable experience for kids, giving you the peace of mind that your children are receiving quality educational content. But people have argued that they're teaching exactly what children shouldn't do. For example, in the No No Bedtime song, the baby refuses to brush his teeth, have a bath, put on pajamas or get in bed. The education is that he eventually agrees to do so, yet a TikTok user was critical, stating, anytime I'd ask my son to do a simple task, he'd say no, no, no. He's sitting there watching Cocomelon, which taught him no, 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 and to say no to me. On the topic of education, Jerica...
Okay, just pausing right there. Let's be clear on something. These people are not inherently evil or anything, because they're after the same thing that I am after in this video, that everyone is pretty much after on the digital space today, which is the currency of this digital era, and that is attention. It just so happens that their target audience are the young, fragile kids whose brains haven't yet developed to be able to appreciate the difference between yes and no, or right and wrong.
Sands stated, these people don't give a shit about our children. They care about money. That's it. Your child's cognitive development in direct exchange for their wealth, and there's pretty good evidence supporting this. A New York Times journalist visited Cocomelon's studio, discovering their #1 focus is keeping children hooked. Cocomelon's data and analytics team sifts constantly through YouTube numbers to determine exactly what resonates. Should a girl wear black jeans or blue jeans? Should the music be louder or softer? Should the bus be yellow or red? Yellow is the answer, as they use a darker method to ensure that they're correct. Cocomelon has a dedicated Distractatron room in which once a month children are brought here one at a time and shown a handful of episodes to figure out exactly which parts of the shows are engaging and which are tuned out. Next to the TV playing Cocomelon, there's a second screen which plays a continuous loop of banal real-world scenes. A guy pouring a cup of coffee, someone getting a haircut, each lasting about 20 seconds. Whenever a youngster looks away from the Moonbug show to glimpse the Distractatron, a note is jotted down. We can see what they're looking at and the exact moment when they got distracted. Therefore, education clearly isn't the primary goal. Keeping kids' attention is, is, and this is proven by Cocomelon's most addictive element, rapid camera cutting. It's crazy how many times the frame changes on Cocomelon. It's the same type of addicting behavior that we experience on a TikTok binge. It's the quick change of frame that releases that dopamine and makes the videos addicting to watch. Count the seconds between a change of frame. Well, TikToker the Circus Brain did exactly this. He firstly counts the changes on My Little Pony, concluding there's about 6 seconds between each cut. He then compares it to Cocomelon.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1.
In her video, The Nightmare That Is Cocomelon, Savantix draws a similar conclusion. She found that 96% of the shots in Baby Shark were shorter than 2 seconds. She then compares 4 different animated shows, again finding Cocomelon has the shorter shots.
The longest shot on a Cocomelon video was 6 seconds. The longest shot on Arcane was 8 seconds. The longest shot on Bluey was 27 seconds. And the longest shot on Encanto was 18 seconds.
Which, when combined with every other element, create some terrifying statistics. Dr. Kristen Summer explained that when showing an infant normal video content, they'll focus on the screen just 11% of the time. However, when the video is instead switched to Cocomelon, their screen engagement skyrockets to a whopping 74%. This therefore produces stories such as this. I used to volunteer for a preschool and they had song time. A Cocomelon video came on and all of the tots stopped what they were doing, put down their cheese crackers, and remained fixated on the screen for the duration of the video. It was honestly kind of terrifying. YouTuber Saberspark shared his own personal anecdote. He asked to watch a Disney movie with his 2 younger cousins, who both completely refused, and instead spent all day glued to an iPad playing the addictive show. In Cocomelon Made My Kid a Zombie, a mother talks about her son. He would be in a daze while watching it. You could be waving your hand right in front of his face, and he wouldn't move. It was almost scary. This was also discovered by Sarah Mills 98, who explained when the Cocomelon addiction is so real that my 1-year-old can navigate the TV to turn it on by himself. However, nothing shows the addiction better than the Cocomelon TikTok trend. Parents will play the show's intro loudly and video their kids sprinting toward the television, where you can witness their mood change instantly. The New York Times journalist found something similar. The kid in the Distractotron had shown up in the midst of a tantrum, which ended the second he heard the Cocomelon theme song. It was no surprise to Wheeler, the head of research. 99% of kids, he said, if they're having issues when they get here, once that Cocomelon song comes on, they're like, life is okay, all is good with the world. Obviously, there's a reason for this. Cocomelon is so hyper-stimulating that it actually acts as a drug, and what happens when you take the drug away. Young children experiencing symptoms of addiction and withdrawal, obviously leaving them completely dysregulated. TikTok user ThePoff1 filmed what happens when you take the show away, explaining he'll be inconsolable for at least 10 to 15 mins after, adding in the description, Cocomelon meltdown is legit. Once you have a taste of the cocoa, it's hard to break the addiction, which this Reddit user had experienced even worse. My husband and I have been worried about our child. I can slowly see how she'd throw violent tantrums at home and in church whenever she'd get bored and would want to watch the show. Her behavior changes the moment she watches the show, and she will not even eat her meals if she wouldn't watch it. After these tantrums end, kids can experience a general discomfort in the speed of everyday life. The more they watch the show, the more their brain begins to expect this intense level of stimulation.
Again, that is quite interesting to see all these real world scenarios, but one thing I'm just realizing watching these is seeing that this is not actually something new. All companies out there are actually committed to refining and researching and improving their products to be as addictive and absorbing as possible. That is beginning from the sugary things and the fats and the trans fats that we find in our daily treats and the things we love so much, that this is just happening as another part of the entire system and the entire process, which actually brings the idea that it's not so much the program, the Cocomelon, that is bad, as just as much as it's not so much the fast food that is inherently bad. Because if a child watches one episode of Cocomelon a week, nothing is going to happen to them. Just the same way, if you eat a burger once a week, nothing's really going to happen to you. You'll probably really enjoy it as a treat. So the problem really comes when you let go, you let loose. And that is where we're now talking about discipline and we're talking about responsibility. But before we get to that, let's just finish.
Basically, Cocomelon overstimulates their brains so much that everything else just seems slow and boring in comparison.
However, the potential consequences get much worse than this. As mentioned at the start, it was the cause of a child's speaking problems, with a notable reply reading, "Same thing happened with my daughter too. She's 4 but can't speak properly. She knows the words, but she does not like to frame the sentence or speech. She has been watching these Cocomelons or such other stuffs for 2 or 3 years. Hope we're not too late." Over on Reddit, a speech language pathologist explained, "Screen time in general is linked with speech delays for a variety of reasons, but Cocomelon is excessively bad. Firstly, unlike other TV shows or movies, it doesn't have a story. It's just very short clips with poorly written songs. The kids aren't able to follow the plot, learn vocabulary, and see the resolution of a conflict, supported by infant specialist Meg Fora."
And the problem with fast-paced TV programs is that we find that little one's language development is slower.
On the Agents of Speech YouTube channel, this is again confirmed.
The main problem with watching videos on the internet is that they don't know how to use the language that they learn.
But he adds that 4 to 5 hours of screen time per day can make a toddler completely non-verbal. 4 to 5 hours is obviously a lot of time, but in Cocomelon Made My Kid a Zombie, researchers discovered that 5-year-olds who watch more than 2 hours of TV a day tended to have lower attention spans and were 7.7 times more likely to show symptoms of ADHD. These screen times might be even lower for Cocomelon specifically because, as explained by Jerica Sands, not all screen time is created equal. A child who just watched 30 minutes of Cocomelon and a child who just watched 30 minutes of Trash Truck will look like a very, very different child. Thankfully, here lies a simple solution. Sierra Renee explained, "My 2-year-old is speech delayed and addicted to Cocomelon. Switched to Miss Rachel 2 days ago and he's already saying more words and hasn't had any tantrums."
Once again, I hope it's going to be addressed at the end of the video. We're already at 10 minutes. I think we have just about less than 2 minutes left, but we're not really seeing the real source of the problem here. I mean, you realize that your kid is having trouble with screen time, and all what you're going to do is change the show. It's like saying I'm addicted to a product that has 75 grams of sugar, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start having something that has 70 grams instead. You're still consuming unhealthy stuff. How about actually stepping up to the responsibility? Now, this is quite personal to me because my nephew recently was diagnosed of ADHD. And one thing that the whole process got me understanding is that this is a system. It's not just the show. That involves the parents' lack of responsibility, because I have actually brought it to their attention so many times that this screen time, you have kids, it's so easy, especially as young parents, and maybe you have 1 child or 2 children and you have to work or take care of the home and they're crying and distracting. It's so easy and so tempting to just want to give them your phone or give them that tablet to suit them so you don't have to deal with that noise. So it's completely understandable, but that is where we have to step up to the occasion, to the responsibility, because you're not just suiting the child, you're actually damaging them potentially for life. And so when I talk of a system, I talk even of the medical system is part of this. They took him in, and this professional had time to observe him interact with toys and all the other things around him, including his parents, in the same room with him. And this professional concluded that this kid is to be put on the spectrum because he has attention issues. But I find it quite curious that this professional didn't ask, how much time do you guys spend talking with the child, playing with him? Do you guys have neighbors who have kids that the kid can play with? Does he have a sibling that he can play with? Does he have a daycare where he can interact with other real world children and actually get the opportunity to use the language that we so want him to speak? None of that was asked. The professional was just happy to add him to his list, perhaps for a quarter, and put him on some kind of treatment plan. And so I found that disturbing, because even the average lay person at this point on the internet space knows that if children are spending more time with their screen devices and less time interacting with real world people, they're going to develop speech issues. So who really has a responsibility here? Is it the internet to raise your kids, or is it you and I as parents to actually step up no matter how challenging and difficult it can actually be? Okay, let's just finish this.
Kim.it shared an almost identical anecdote. My 8-month-old was obsessed with Cocomelon and having bad tantrums, so I cancelled Cocomelon and only let her watch Miss Rachel, and she said her first word within the first 3 days of watching. Clearly, parents are able to simply change the channel, but not before leaving Cocomelon a massive amount of dislikes. They've therefore earned the title the absurdly popular kids show parents hate, and Cocomelon has actually responded to the criticism that explain our shows are not intended to replace outdoor playtime or playdates. They have a place in children's entertainment time, and as with food, exercise, etc., it comes down to each parent to find the right and appropriate balance for their children. Our responsibility is ensuring that the quality of the content that we produce is high and beneficial for the development of a child's cognitive and soft skills. It is worth adding that our social media communities are filled with stories of parents who experience firsthand how Moonbug content helps their children. Cocomelon does have a crazy amount of supporters, but it's obvious that some of them are simply ignoring the downsides. My baby learned the alphabet and numbers from Cocomelon. She may not speak a complete sentence, but she expresses her wants through phrases. But is it Cocomelon's responsibility to ensure that babies are talking? Well, no. People love blaming cartoons and games for raising children, and not the shitty parents that don't step in to stop them from watching so much. Cocomelon is actually a really sad symbol of parents giving their children tablets instead of actually parenting and interacting with them. Ultimately, parents are the people who choose how much their child consumes.
And great, it was brought up at the end, and sadly, I mean, it took just the last few seconds of the video. Perhaps it should be renamed not so much to the most evil channel on YouTube, because then we're going to call soft drinks and fast food the most evil meals in the world, but more about the reflection and a call to actions to parents around the world to actually step up to greater responsibility. And I mentioned at the beginning of this video that it's a reflection of this end time where the scriptures warns us that in these last days people shall be lovers of themselves more than lovers of God. Because one central thing is understanding that parenting is discomfort. It's sad that our time and our age has tried to paint it as something negative and something nagging, but we're rather supposed to see it as a ministry entrusted to us by the Most High Himself. Because you have no idea whether that kid you're raising is going to save a generation tomorrow, is going to raise and run a nation, or just touch some person's life that will have dramatic consequences. So when you understand the ministry aspect, then we are more comfortable to sacrifice even the job and the money we are so much out there trying to pursue, and allowing kids to raise themselves, or allowing the internet to raise our kids, to actually get more involved, more applied, and more connected to this kid. I would like to end by encouraging every parent there. Perhaps you have been a victim of taking the easy way out, taking the shortcut, but this is not intended to make you feel bad, because already choosing to be a parent in this time where it has been painted as a negative is already a big victory which you deserve to be congratulated for. The objective of this is just to encourage each and every parent out there to step up higher, to rise to the occasion, and start applying ourselves even more, not letting the system, the government, the internet, and all these other third parties raise our homes and our kids for us, because that is exactly what the devil wants. I hope this inspires you. I hope this blessed you. If you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe, hit that bell if you're new to the channel. Thank you for watching. I'm Bodas Jumesi from Wisdom for Dominion, and until the next one, stay blessed.